My name is Donnie the Butcher Bishop, and I was robbed by screen cheating.
How does screen cheating affect your pro gaming career?
How did it affect my career? It nerfed my career. There I was, head-to-head with SGK in the Transatlantic Multinational Championship Southeast Asia ring, playing God Ring 2, final round. I'm all lined up to take a shot, and BAM! Impossible headshot, came out of nowhere. How's I supposed to know? Look, he screen cheated. That's the only way he did it.
So we found a game here at GDC that we've been live streaming on Gamereactor Live, Screencheat, and we caught up with the developer here to tell us a little bit. First of all, for those who are unfamiliar, can you just give us the quick pitch? What is Screencheat?
Not a problem. So Screencheat is a split-screen shooter. Everyone is invisible, and you have to screencheat. That is the core mechanic, and we take that to its extreme in this game.
So what does that mean in terms of like how the game plays? How does that change things?
Well, unlike a normal shooter where you sort of like move around the map and you follow its flow and you sort of know where you're hoping you know where your enemies are coming from, you start to like find them and shoot them. You spend the entire game looking at each other's screens and you get this sort of like ballet of like prediction and dance around each other where you're sort of deciding actions based on where your opponents are as opposed to having to assume where your opponents are. You have so much knowledge that you get to play a really different sort of shooter, and it's much more strategic.
I can imagine that it's sort of tapping into different parts of your brain as you play it, because you have to sort of simultaneously keep different things in your head.
Yeah, what we notice is not necessarily the best shooter players are really good at this. Like, a good aim is useful, but aiming in this game is not necessarily pointing a trigger at, like pointing a crosshair on a screen. You need to know so much. It's about like map awareness. So sort of players who come from like Counter-Strike are actually quite good because they have a really good understanding of map awareness and they're able to sort of follow a player's movement throughout a map all the time. Whereas sort of a Twitch gamer isn't necessarily that good at this because they're just used to pointing and shooting at something that moves, right? So you really have to think a lot more in this.
Yeah. I can imagine that if you're good at this game, you're also going to be a good level designer in a way.
No, I think that's really important actually, is like the first step in like learning how to play Screencheat is learning all the maps, right? So coming in and playing and getting a lot of info, you can start to like break down the levels and sort of like see how the structure can like give all the information it needs. So as the level designer, I worked really hard to make sure the maps were readable in sort of like what I describe as like macro, mini, and micro information. So at a glance, you know, like a really short glance, you know exactly like the macro information. So you know which part of the map they're in because we break all the maps down in quadrants of color. And then the mini would be the structural elements. So say they're coming down a ramp roughly, 20 meters away from me. And the mini information is like, okay, they're 10 centimeters, they're like a meter off this column. And that's how the longer you spend like seeing them on the screen, the more information you can get, the more precise you can get. But what is really important is you need to consider there are 3 other players on the screen, so you need to sort of use your brain power to like defend against 2 while you're attacking another player. Yeah.
I can imagine also that there's going to be players who prefer levels that are more sort of that has more clues for the players to find out where they are and sort of cheat. Yeah. But there are also players who might enjoy having a map that is pretty difficult to read in that sense.
I think some players really enjoy that sort of like slightly vague imprint where they basically have to, they spend more time like chasing and like duking around places as opposed to the players who just want to know exactly where their opponent is. And it leads to 2 really different styles of play. And I try to provide that with all the different maps. There's 8 now in the game. And I've tried to give a good range of like really tight maps that are very easy to screenshot in, or maps that are very open and are all about movement. Because I know like because we're doing split screen, we're expecting a lot of like sort of people who are more used to couch experience with a controller, so they might want something smaller and more tight. But a PC gamer might prefer a very open, very jumpy map if they come from something like Quake. So I try to provide the sort of experiences I can within the range of the maps that I've given.
So. What's been going on with the game since you first sort of let it out there, and what's the progress been?
Yeah, so in October we released. Since then we've done 2 major updates, and we've just been sort of keeping the game stable between those. We released a patch releasing a new map and some new modes, and now just recently we released our huge patch where we've got 2 maps, 2 modes, customizable game modes, a new weapon called the Surgeon, which is a mason chain yo-yo that shoots out with a rocket and then gets to a point and turns around and shoots back where you came from. So that's we're trying to like spice everything up and give a lot more content to the players, which is now also going onto our Xbox version, which we're talking about finally, and can't wait to bring it out there.
I mean, it is sort of a natural fit for this game to also come to console, where it's perhaps more sort of inherent that you play with a split screen.
Exactly. Like I think on console we're going to see a lot more people playing on the couch with their friends, and that's great. Like the game is played best when you can sit there and punch your mate after he kills you, right? Like it's not. We implemented the actual reason we have online player in the game in the first place was because we needed it for development, and it turns out the game is actually pretty good if you have Skype, but it just doesn't replace that feeling of being on a couch with your friends.
And what's the experience been to move it on to an Xbox One? It's been a smooth experience?
Yeah, it's actually been surprisingly smooth. I mean, we had it running on the Xbox in a couple of days outside of a couple of shader issues, and like from there it plays great. It's already like running super smooth, and yeah, it's been good. Like we already support every controller known to man on PC, so we're used to playing it with. We have the Xbox One controllers already, so we're used to playing it on that, and it plays really good.
Any plans for further consoles after Xbox One?
Not that we're able to talk about right now. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
My name is Richard Jones, and I'm a screen cheater.
When did all of this begin?
Must have been 12, maybe 14 years ago. It started off innocently enough, just, following shortcut paths in Super Mario Kart. But GoldenEye was when it became a real problem.
What kind of a problem?
My friends stopped playing with me, my family too.